today, that is a case discussion. So in an attempt to make this platform more interesting, we are doing a case discussion today. And any of you, any of the nutrition professionals, if you have come up with any interesting case study, and you would like to discuss that case study with your peer, you can always reach Tea Talks and present the case discussions, and we can do a session with you. And this is the first thing. And the second thing, we are also doing a new model of a published article, journal reading of a published article. So any nutrition professionals who has their articles published can reach to Tea Talks, and we can have a discussion, open discussion on these published articles. So you can always reach us at teatalks.tuesday@gmail.com. We'll provide you the details. Okay, so any nutrition profession can reach either Dr. Janaki ma'am or Mayuri, myself, and we'll get in touch with you and we can arrange a session with you. And the other third one is, as we have done last time, book review. So any of you who has published, any nutrition professionals who have published their nutrition related books, or you would like to do any book review, can also reach us, and we would do a discussion on this again. So these are the three different varieties which we three different types of discussions which we have planned for this season, to make it more as an information and knowledge bank. So you can all reach us at teatalks.tuesday@gmail.com, or you can always reach myself, Mayuri, and Dr. Janaki ma'am, who is here. And over to you, Dr. Janaki, for the today's session.
Okay. Thank you, Mayuri, and welcome all audience on Facebook as well as in Zoom platform. Today's discussion is on EB, short form for epidermolysis bullosa simplex. To make it easier for me especially, because I have to speak for next 5-10 minutes. So this case has come to me, and of course the boy is under treatment, but I just wanted, because it's a rare condition, so I just wanted this to be discussed on this platform, so that this information remains in this platform. And also any other dietitians or doctors who want to refer can come back and refer to this case, and maybe they'll get some ideas as how to treat. So before we go into case is not much, not much to explain about the case as such, because the condition is existing, and as you all know, the condition is not curable. So what we do here is today, I'll just present some information about EB, and then after that we'll go for the discussion. So I'll share the screen. Okay. I think my screen is visible now.
Yes, doctor.
Yeah. Okay. So today we are going to discuss epidermolysis bullosa simplex. It is actually simplest form of epidermolysis bullosa. I welcome all of you to participate in the discussion and give dietary suggestions as we end this introduction part. So let's go with this. So, nutritional aspect of children and adolescents with epidermolysis bullosa, literature review says that nutritional care is a key treatment for strategy of EB. And since the energy needs are increased due to diseases metabolism, burden on the immune system, and cicatrization process, that is wound healing, symptoms caused by the disease hinder the intake and adequate absorption of nutrients, resulting in inadequate growth and development. As such, the children be in that position of in that stage of growth and development, and also improvement of the functionality. So because this is a rare disease, there are a few professionals who know characteristics of both clinical evaluation. There are very few professionals who know the characteristics of both clinical evaluation and nutritional and dietary treatments. So there's no specific dietary treatments as such, since we are a group of dietitians here. So we are generally going to deal with the diet part, but nevertheless we'll just touch upon the pathology and etiology of the system. So the definition is also this. There's no specific definition given as such, but certain explanations have been there. Rare genetic blistering disorder, incidence going up to 8 to 19 per million, with cleavage in dermis and lower dermis, or at dermoepidermal junction. Based on the place of the cleavage, the disease is described. The term epidermolysis bullosa (EB) was introduced in 1886 and refers to a group of inherited bullous diseases characterized by the appearance of blisters as a result of minimal mechanical trauma caused by the mutations in genes that encode any of the structural components of keratinocytes and dermoepidermal junction. Mutations cause changes in proteins that are responsible for addition, detect defects between cutaneous structure leading to the formation of blisters. At least 30 different epidermolysis bullosa phenotypes have been described, each resulting from mutations in molecular genes that encode cutaneous structural proteins. So this is how this is the basic structure where the EB can attack. If it is here, the you can see this particular portion. You can see my cursor. This particular portion is magnified, and in this, if this is the simple, if this is the EB simplex, if it affects here, and if it affects at the junction, then it is called junctional EB, and later part it is called dystrophic EB. So this is
Excuse
just
me,
for
Dr.
us.
Janaki. Sorry
Yeah,
to disturb you 1 second.
yeah.
The volume is slightly low, it seems.
Okay.
So can we increase
I'll
the
increase
volume?
the volume.
Yeah.
Now, is it okay now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the basic changes, genetic changes that are described are K5, K14 mutations in the genes given here. Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, doctor.
Okay. So the etiology is like a defects in keratin K5 and K14. Here you can see this K5 and K14 in genes. Defects in keratin K5 and K14 filament network architecture cause basal keratinocytes to become fragile and account for their trauma-induced rupture. So the clinical features are present as blisters form shortly after birth due to pressure, rubbing, or trauma. Blisters cause scarring and milia or dorsum of hands, elbows and knees, and oromuscular lesions, that is in the mouth. And EB simplex associated with marked morbidity may cause a death during early infancy, exhibits intact vesicles or small blisters in a group or arcuate or curved configuration. Diagnosis usually requires focused lab testing such as transmission EB, that is the gold standard, and immunofluorescence antigen mapping or immunohistochemical staining with the EB specific monoclonal antibodies. Now, this is just to show how EB simplex can look, and this is taken from the net. This first picture you see is there is no inflammation, but in the second picture you can see slight inflammation too. So what are the nutritional implications? So this is our interesting part. So malnutrition in EB patients being the result of combination of decreased food intake and increased nutrient demand. Both are there. As the child is growing, or since it is right from the birth, um, so the demands for nutrient will be very high. At the same time, Decreased food intake also causes malnutrition in EB patients and leads to failure to thrive and delayed milestones. Anemia and a cascade of clinical and biological events that together culminate with the interruption or retardation of wound healing. Nutritional depletion and protein energy malnutrition can result in alteration of immunocompetence and secondary to bacterial infections that have been reported in EB patients. So, nutritional impairment in EB patients is directly proportional to severity of EB. This is due to numerous complications. One is blisters and oral ulcerations where intake will be limited. A compromised esophageal mobility, esophageal stenosis, dysphagia, dental problems may not all symptoms may not be present, but sometimes all may be present or few may be present. Digestive and absorptive disorders, anal erosions and fissures and rectal constrictions, chronic constipation, blood and protein loss through blisters, hypermetabolism secondary to the increase in thermogenesis and protein turnover, especially in the presence of infection. These issues have greatest significance in children and adolescents due to their immense nutritional requirements to achieve proper growth. So it is a vicious circle. It is very difficult to break. This is how it will be: loss of appetite, apathy, decreased food intake, mobility, weight gain, sun exposure, growth retardation, nutritional losses through the skin and blisters and nutritional deficiency, and then impairment of wound healing, immune system, and increased number of infections, delayed milestones, and maybe osteopenia, osteoporosis because of low nutrient intake, again leading to loss of appetite, apathy. This is a vicious circle. The interactions between the factors are a challenge to the establishment of the best conduct, and it becomes very difficult to determine which intervention is of a priority. So let's go to the individual requirements, especially energy and protein are the most important here. A simple method of estimating energy requirement for children and adolescents with EB is proposed, and it consists in providing 100% to 150% of the estimated energy requirement, which is a part of dietary reference intake or RDA. Growth is not satisfactory. If growth is not satisfactory based on its regular assessments, a gradual increase in energy supply should be initiated. For children, adolescents, and for children and adolescents who do not have nutritional risk, a likely reduction in energy consumption is suggested because there can be a potential hazard of overweight, which can again lead to blisters on the feet because of the pressure. The later is secondary to feet blisters that limit the activity and ability to exercise, which decreases energy requirements. And if energy consumption is not matched to its needs, weight gain can cause pressure on the feet. So energy is based on the requirement of the child, and of course, by all means, overweight needs to be avoided. But I doubt if overweight can happen in these cases at all. So protein requirement is because of the great protein loss through blisters, the constant need for skin synthesis and recurrent infections. The protein needs of patients with EB are greater than those of their healthy peers of matching gender and age. Despite the lack of information on the quantification of cutaneous protein loss in patients with EB, it is supposed to be quite significant, which reduces the possibility of maintaining a positive nitrogen balance. The protein requirement increases 115 to 200% of the estimated average requirement according to the RDA for the respective chronological age. Now, micronutrients, a study including 73 patients evaluated plasmatic levels of 10 nutrients: vitamin A, vitamin C, B6 and B12, folate, thiamine, riboflavin, copper, zinc, and iron, and found low plasma levels of zinc, iron, and vitamin C, vitamin B12, and vitamin B6. Normal levels of thiamine, riboflavin, folate, and copper were found in all examined patients. Therefore, authors conclude that excessive use of vitamin supplements is unnecessary for the majority of patients with EB. So the goals for nutrition intervention is ease the stress caused by feeding time, minimize nutritional deficiencies, improve the bowel function, enhance the immunological status, optimize wound healing, build up normal body composition, and promote proper growth. These are the main goals, are the goals to be for the intervention. So is EB is curable? There is currently no cure for epidermolysis bullosa, but treatment can help ease and control symptoms. It avoids skin damage to some extent. I cannot say it is 100%, but improve quality of life, reduce the risk of developing complications such as infection and malnutrition. So this is the case I got. You can see here a 2 years child, and you can see the gross malnutrition that is there, and you can see blisters coming and healing, and a new blister forming here at the neck, and after some time that blister remitted, healed up, but this process is like if there is a small pressure or touch or rubbing, there'll be a blister, then it will heal up, then again another new blister will come. So it's very difficult for children. It's very difficult for children to not to get into any kind of activity. But with the given malnutrition, I doubt the child will be actively participating in any activity also. So to this child, I recommended along with the regular food that he is taking right now. He likes palak, dal, and rice. Most of the time, his mother is giving palak, rice, and dal because he's liking that, and he's eating with interest. So we included dry fruits and nuts compote, which is made with the dry fruits and nuts, which are soaked overnight in clear apple juice along with little water, and it's slightly gets fermented. That is one portion, and then eggnog, bone soup, green leafy vegetable soup, dal soup, soft boiled egg, coconut milk, almond milk, buttermilk rice, pongal, khichdi rice, soft or very thin cooked, like that. We some more options we have given. To some extent, they are following, but not 100%. I would say most of the time the feeding part is dependent on the child. If the child likes, then the feed happens. If the child doesn't like, then the feed doesn't happen. This is what is the current status now. So let us discuss now. If you want, I'll keep the slides on if you want to go back to anyone. Otherwise, I'll close the share. Let me know.
Let's keep it open, doctor.
Okay.
We'll see if any of them need it.
Yeah.
So I have this doubt, doctor, like,
okay.
definitely this is a genetic this thing, right? So this is a genetic mutation. So any history of family history lead to this cause, or it can happen with any kid?
It is not to do with the family history, but the mutations in the genes.
Gene mutations, that's
it. Gene mutations.
Okay. And bathing and all are also not recommended, I guess, right?
Yes, bathing is also a very difficult part.
Right.
She actually presses with a soft cloth, cotton cloth.
Okay.
Mother, she actually presses the baby with the tepid water with the soft cloth.
Okay.
And doctor prescribes some ointments for blisters which are raw. That she keeps, and sometimes she powders, sometimes she doesn't, but most of the time she's using the ointment for the blisters.
Okay. So experts would like to hear from you. So And currently, so as you said, the feeds which are given to the kid is totally dependent on like what kid wants to have. That's it.
Yes, yes, because if he refuses to eat, mother cannot force also.
Obviously. And
And
how is the
when holding and all also, it's very difficult, you know.
difficult?
If it is a normal child, they try forcing the meal or
Hmm.
the bolus, but it is very difficult to force the child here. So it is
Okay.
important for the mother or for us to let the child feel hungry. That's very,
Right.
very important so that the child eats the food.
Okay. And how is the growth parameters, doctor, currently with this
growth
child?
is growth is kind of height is to the normal standard, but whereas you saw the picture, right? So
Yes.
it's highly malnourished,
Yes.
but height wise is okay.
Okay. And how was his first year of feeding, doctor? It's was he able to tolerate the breast milk and all?
He
How it
was
was? He was.
he was able to tolerate the breast milk, but holding the child also was difficult for
Difficult,
mother.
right? That's the reason, you know. I mean, even if you touch, also there can be some blisters.
And most of the time she used to express the milk and feed with the
What?
spoon.
Okay.
Soumya
Okay.
raised her hand.
Soumya, yes, you can
Yeah,
unmute yourself, Soumya.
yeah. Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon,
Can
Soumya.
we see you, Soumya?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, ma'am. So,
Any
ma'am,
cases you see? Any cases you see in your hospital like this?
ma'am, we have very less of pediatric, ma'am. We do not have much pediatric cases, and even if we have, it is orthopediatric which we are seeing more.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
clubbing hands and these kind of cases.
Okay. So this is a rare condition, though. Yeah.
Ma'am, orally, will he be able to tolerate, or orally also does these kind of children have blisters and all?
Yes, I didn't put pictures of oral EB because they're quite gross, so I just didn't want to put. Blisters can happen inside the gut as well. That's why esophageal stenosis can occur. A blockage can occur. It can be in the stomach, it can be in the colon, it can be in the small intestines as well. Anywhere, blisters can happen anywhere wherever there is mucosa.
And
Okay.
how about the
In the
survival
mouth,
rate?
in the mouth as well. Yes, survival. Survival rate is very, very, very low. There is no cure, and we cannot expect this kind of situation for long also.
Okay. Right.
So it is only giving a relief and relief to the patient and relief to the parents, because it's a pediatric condition basically, and can some children can tolerate well because the blisters may not happen as rampant as in this case. So some can tolerate and grow up to adolescence also as well, but
Okay.
the blisters continue. With that, they grow.
Okay. And doctor, maybe we can stop the screen share, and
Okay.
as we are doing the discussion.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So Brundavani ma'am is here, a pediatric nutritionist. If she can throw some insights.
Hi, Brunda.
Yeah. Hi. Yeah,
Brunda.
just came from hospital.
Okay.
Yeah, just a
So
minute.
how is it, COVID conditions?
We
you?
started a COVID center in road number 10, Banjara Hills.
Okay.
I'm trying to start my video here. I hope I can. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
So
do
we
you
started,
see,
pardon me?
do you see these cases, EB cases in the hospital?
I think we had seen around 2 children.
Okay.
At the age of 1.5 and I think, 1 to 2-ish, may just in the toddler group. But then, quite very difficult to manage this,
Yeah,
it's
very
just like,
difficult.
kind of, severe eczema kind of skin, like, it needs a lot of nutrients for the skin growth, and, the blisters keep on oozing. So there are a lot of protein loss and itching.
Yeah.
Quite difficult to handle. And even in you, because even the GI is also a skin. This is a skin, respiratory, everything is a skin. So overall, it's a kind of, quite angry inside out. So most of the formulas don't suit, and even if the dietary recommendations are written like milk and everything, they actually don't digest so much. So, but then the guidelines never tell us that we need to use a peptide or this and that and all that. So even when we give TPN also, there's a lot of refeeding syndrome, because kind of 30% loss is there. So when 30% loss is there and you're trying to give a TPN, it doesn't really fix the problem. So
TPN is not at all suitable, I believe.
Yeah.
Some studies say, and even puncturing itself, some
so even to put a NG tube also a problem.
Yeah. True.
And even to do a gastrostomy, and it just comes out. So the best way is to do a kind of peptide based pre-digested carbs. Idli is a very good pre-digested carb, because you soak it and you ferment it and you cook it. So these are the things that you can do. And protein, you need to do 180% of the RDA. That's also kind of a peptide, but you need to work on a good good chicken broths and glucosamines and collagen. So they also work around. Oh, it's just like, tender loving care.
Tender love, lot of it.
Yeah, how long we don't know, but it's just a kind of it's an opportunity to see the depth of your need in this particular children.
Correct.
True.
But at one point, even parents get frustrated.
I don't know, Janki. The thing here is, even if you see oncology children, all these things occur in the lower socioeconomic group. Comes all the more, I don't see, upper income group coming to our oncology ward or having all these kind of things. So really, I don't know, maybe a lot of consanguinity is there, or, they marry exclusively, if not consanguinity. I think around maybe 50 years or 100 years, they're married in the village kind. That's a kind of, unknown consanguinity maybe. At least, in cities, they actually choose from different states or whatever it is. But this small hamlet, so people keep marrying. They think they're not consanguineous. I think invariably they're consanguineous.
Invariably they are. It's a small tribe.
Yeah, because they've been married for past 100 years in the same village. So, and it all happens to them, and it's very sad they to go. But then it's an opportunity whenever you get something like that, really work around it and imprint the thing, so that next time when you see something, a burns child, or you have a severe eczema child, at least you can actually replicate yourself what could be the needs, because this particular condition, they have given the indications.
Correct.
Could be severe burns, electrical burns, or thermal burns could also be the same thing, which indications may not be given, because nobody had done extensive work in the burns children. So maybe if you technically imprint this, so that you can always adapt to
true. But burns will get healed up, and
so
because of a genetical mutation, it may continue, but definitely the condition will
so at
clinical features are same for both.
Yeah, so at least you can know that I can give 180% of the RDA, so you can actually boomerang into whenever you find a need. So at least you're more kind of, your vision is broader.
Yes. Great.
Nice seeing you guys.
Nice.
Same here.
Nice to have you too. So
and
nice.
Without a mask.
True. So actually, Uma Maheshwari ma'am has raised the hand. So I think she would like to. Yes, ma'am.
Actually, it's a very pathetic condition. Hello, Mayuri.
Hi, Uma.
Janaki. Hi, Vanda. Brindavani.
Yeah. Uma, you're from Global, right?
No, Uma Maheshwari,
No,
ma'am.
I am Uma
The professor.
Maheshwari, a retailed professor from Agricultural
Okay,
University.
you're looking very young, ma'am.
Actually, this is a very pathetic condition, Janaki. Do you have any data regarding what is the % prevalence of such cases in rural areas or urban areas and like that? And what measures, as we know, people like we, what measures we can take regarding this, like educating the especially rural people on this consignment marriages and all. What measures we can take? There is any work we have done in this regard, Janaki?
We haven't done, as such, we haven't done any work on this, ma'am, because our concern was only on PEM, protein energy malnutrition.
Mainly we are doing on
that
PEM.
is long back now, but we are into obesity now.
Prevalence,
But
what is the prevalence?
prevalence is 8 to 19 per million. It's very rare condition.
Very rare
Rare
conditions.
condition. It's a
But
genetical
even
mutation.
then, it's not countable, no? Even then it is count. It
is
has to
not
be taken into
countable.
count.
Yes, ma'am. It is not countable if you see the prevalence wise, but it is much countable if you take as an individual at family level.
At
So,
family level, it is a
yes.
very pathetic condition.
Yes.
And we should work on that, I think, Janaki.
That's why I said when I got this case, I thought maybe we should share in Tea Talks Tuesday.
Yeah.
So that
Oh, you got somebody, Janki?
yeah,
Yes.
I presented that case.
Congrats. How
If you
old?
want 2 years.
Yes.
What's the weight?
Is about I think about 12 kgs or so. 12 kgs.
Couldn't be a dry weight. Electrolytes are all fine.
Other things are all fine. All milestones are fine. And the boy actually tries to dance in the bed. Because the elder boy likes to dance and keeps music and keeps dancing. So this boy also tried to move, for the music. He wants to sway and all that. So
Joys
otherwise
of
he's
life.
okay. Yeah, otherwise he's okay, except for the blisters, which is very difficult for him. It is blisters heal and then they come up, then heal, come up, heal, come up. The cycle continues.
Okay. So, doctor, when you have listed out the diet for him, I've seen you have given the milk alternatives like almond milk and any specific reason for that? Not the
lactose intolerance. So
he is a lactose intolerant. Okay. Is this the case with every EB case or only this particular case?
I think EB cases we have to completely look very individually. I mean, we have to hit and trial kind of method we have to do for the diet part. First, I started with a very low portion size, maybe with 1 teaspoon, 2 spoon like that, 10 ml, 5 ml, 15 ml, and then to half cup like that. And then we started with the diluted milk, in fact, coconut milk diluted or almond milk diluted.
Okay.
Because actually they asked me because they wanted to give some type of milk to the boy.
Okay.
He was taking palak, rice and dal. That's his favorite. He's continuously taking that. But somehow they believe that milk is much complete food, and they want to give milk to the growing child. So they asked me what kind of milk they can give. So I suggested this in a diluted form to begin with, and then low portion size. So then slowly, I mean, he is tolerating well. That in fact,
Okay.
He's tolerating well.
Okay. And Brindaman, have you seen any lactose intolerance in your 2 cases which you are mentioning?
See, whenever they come to us, they're very, very sick.
Right.
Generally, what happens in these children, they thrive with some episodes, and parents also know how to handle these children. But if they have a kind of any viral fever, the whole thing just collapses.
Right.
So at that point of time, the whole GI is frail, and the whole biochemical parameters are here and there. So you have to rebuild them with a kind of amino acids or peptides or something, and then wean them to a regular diet and send. So, you know, their GI is not the same 12 months.
Right.
So any kind of even a family member has a flu, they're reactive.
Right.
So, you
Because
know,
the defense mechanism itself is.
yeah. So any
yeah.
bacterial load or viral load or anything, we'll just take them and put them onto zero level, and then again you
Right.
need to. So what we generally do is we give them a plan that, you know, if so many stools or so much, you know, if you have around so many blisters, you know, that would mean the skin is, suppose
true.
we have a count of, you know,
Right.
1.5 centimeter blister. Okay.
Right.
If you have around 5 of them, that would mean this much of surface area is gone with it. So you can count the blister sizes and then work around your protein there. Or if you have a family member having a flu, or we generally say whenever the rainy season is coming, pep up the protein there. And in summers, don't try to give any kind of, you know, GI irritant food, you know, so we just pack them up in that way. So they're more broader, but yeah, it's always you coming square one and then starting up.
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
So percentage skin affected is counted, I think. Percentage of the skin,
Yeah.
20%,
Actually,
40%, 50%.
yeah, the surface areas of these blisters are actually counted, and especially non-healing and, you know, kind of which are prone to bed sores. So there is a, you know, kind of picture where the parents would know the, you know, pressure points. So if they find blisters there, what kind of care they would take. So that in a way, it's just like a fabric that they really need to monitor. So
Very delicate fabric.
yeah, seriously. So it's a lot of, you know, friendly talk with parents, like, you know, this is how it is, so that they'll call amma kindana chaana pedda vachayanta vachaya borla padukobettu solids ichchaka 15 నిమిషాల తర్వాత borla padukobettu liquids ivvaku vomit aitadi atla.
Right.
They also get to into it.
Okay.
Are there any standards, Janaki, for like for burns and all? We have first degree, second degree, like that, no? Like that.
There are no standards as such, ma'am, but they count based on the area of destruction, rather, like, you know, 20%.
What
50%.
Brunda said just now.
Yeah, exactly. Based on that, the diet is planned. From 100% to 150%, the Brunda now says it can go up to 180% as well. So it depends upon the extent of damage on the skin. Based on that count,
So
the percentage
same
of
thing we cannot
energy
apply. What we apply for burns, the same thing we cannot apply here.
See, burn is a deep tissue trauma.
Okay.
So it's healing right from inside. So it works on a kind of, you know, immune response, and it's a regeneration at least 3-4 layers. This is a lot of fluid and protein loss. Like if you have a blister and, you know, you have the serous drainage, so it is more like, you know, severe atopic dermatitis, where your skin is completely shedding, something similar to it, but this has a genetic predisposition. But
it cannot hold.
Acute dermatitis is, you know, skin is very allergic. This one skin is not allergic, so you can still try mixed diet, but in that you can't try mixed diet. And in burns, it's a huge stress. So this boil doesn't cause stress. It's just you know, kind of a crack in the pot. But when you're talking about atopic dermatitis, it's a serious allergic reaction. Burns is a kind of, you know, a huge stress factor to the body, because the burn is not created by the body. It's an insult on the body. So, you know, the body takes a lot more stress with the burn. It has to regenerate.
Right. Okay.
The extent of damage is totally different, and cause is different totally.
Right. So experts, any more experts would like to share their insights? I mean, Dr. Suresh is here, probably the holistic perspective he can share with us.
no experts, Mayuri learners.
True.
Life is so much of learning day in and day out. Look at this COVID,
COVID.
I've learned
Every
that
day.
calcium net, what I thought is, my phosphate would dip in 2 weeks of COVID, but I now understand the calcium is not coming up, no matter what. So, it's like reading different and seeing different and then
Experiencing is different again.
Young girls, the complete cycles were knocked off, and
Yes.
I was so surprised. That means the insult of the virus shocked things in the body.
Even I have seen this, ma'am. 2 to 3 cases who have approached me, like post their COVID, they are not getting their cycles, it seems.
They didn't get their cycles, and one is like, excessive hair loss. It's like, and she's on very high protein. Which means it triggered a very hyperinsulinic thing, wherein maybe the body goes through each person goes through a
personalized
highly personalized.
Anyway, we'll come up with a big trash of COVID for the next coming 2 years. Now everybody's silent. Once post COVID, when you can open the door and they'll come, okay, now I have this, and,
True. Rightly said.
A lot of work for us.
Yeah. Hello, ma'am. Sorry, I joined late. Hello, Dr. Janaki, Mayuri ma'am.
Hello, sir.
So honestly, I never come across this EB ever in my practice, either in my medical college, both in my medical college or during my practice. But one thing I understand about genetic diseases is, see, there are carriers in this and there are phenotypes. So even if the mothers are carriers and they don't express, and if the child is expressing, from my perspective, and it is not the, in holistic, how do I see is the phenotype can be affected by right kind of epigenetic modification. So there is a scope. Certain phenotypes, even though there are certain things, certain genes are switched on, we can still do with certain epigenetic interventions, which I teach in holistic training. Okay, it is all about like mind, body, and energy. There are certain things, and wish I could. I am able to help people with polymyositis and rheumatoid arthritis, even osteoarthritis, simple degenerative osteoarthritis. We are able to reverse those conditions, and even Hashimoto's thyroiditis, which is called autoimmune, and again triggered by this thing. But yeah, honestly, since I don't have anything, but I can only speak theoretically. Wish I had a case, one case to go through or apply the principles I teach. Thank you.
Okay. But
basically mutation in K4, K5 and K14 genes in the dermal area, sir.
Yeah.
So, just
right. I understand epidermal EV, and it's, as I said, ultimately, if you go into the deep of the nutrigenomics and the metabolomics involved, so what is a mutation? And it is just a change in the orientation of these nucleotides, right? So we call that as mutation, and it gets carried, and the phenotype is expressed. The expressed is called a phenotype. So if something is able to bring about that mutation, my logical question is always, right, is always something else can also reverse it. So that's what I believe in. So we need to look for the solutions. See, if people are talking about now about looking at the telomeres and reverse aging, with some of the people, if you listen to Vishen Lakiani's Mind Valley, some of the experts over there, some of the teachers over there, they do this telomere testing and ascertain the chronological age, and their biological age. So someone is 40 years old, but if they look at the number of replications that are happening, okay, so we all like going through our regular process of aging, which is part of entropy, which is like natural process. But given certain practices, it is possible to challenge the natural flow of aging or the expression of the genotype into phenotype. That's what I believe in. Okay, we don't have to take for granted that, okay, this has a mutation and the phenotype has to be this.
Okay.
If we ask right questions, if something made it change the sequence or the end of the day, it could be like numbers, right? We are all made up of 4 numbers, 4 alphabets to be precise. So if that sequence is changed, I mean, something in the environment is able to change that. So something in the environment is also capable of reversing that. That's what is a possibility. That's my 2 cents. Thank you.
Okay. Suresh, here one question I have on this.
Yes.
Like when I read in You Can Heal Your Life, the skin represents the individuality, right?
Right.
So, I mean, they generally have this feeling of skinned alive. So they such people have this anything related with the skin disorders, right? So in this case, probably if the thought process of the mother, does the thought process of the mother has any impact on the kid, or
definitely, ma'am. I mean, see, some of the studies that are happening in mind-body medicine and epigenetics and all this have not come into mainstream. Forget about epigenetic and this mind-body thing and energy medicine into coming into. Even in 1979, when Dean Ornish published the paper on reversing coronary artery disease, right? Even till today, the cardiologists, they're all on still following the age-old model, right? So it is still a long way. But in my practice, as you know, right, in one of my classes, I taught all of you, the coaches, the students, that a boy born with congenital anomaly of heart, right? If I'm a medical doctor, I mean, as a medical doctor, if I look at that case, okay, he is suffering with tetralogy of Fallot, PDA and all this stuff, and he needs to be operated. But when we applied the principles and looked into the energy of the mother and the mindset and the emotional personality of the mother, and when she started healing, suddenly, right? I mean, we think that we see certain WhatsApp stories and believe that, okay, these are miracles and magics. But most of the time, we live a mundane life and fail to see that miracles that are happening. So in this case also, the mother, the moment she realized, okay,
right,
the problem is not child's. Because more than child, both the parents are suffering. Why did I get this suffering? I mean, why my child is born with this? What is trying to teach me? Instead of asking the question, the fundamental principle in holistic practice is, instead of asking the question, why me? What is it teaching me? And the mother, when we explained that this is also another way, a complementary way, an alternative way of looking at the problem. So then she realized, and for 6 years, the boy suffered a lot. And the 7th year, the surgery was successful and the boy is healthy and hale. So do you attribute this to coincidence, or just say like, I mean, all the things have fallen in place, or there is a bigger design, which we are not able to fathom because of our limited thinking and limited capabilities.
Right.
So similarly, when a mother is having a child, as you rightly said, skinned off alive. So that particular pain, though the boy is suffering or the kid is suffering with EB, the more pain is to mother. Same is the case with kids of autism. I mean, parents of kids with autism, right? The parents suffer a lot. So we cannot dissociate a mother's emotions to a child's health and relationships, they're brought up, their ideology, their philosophy of life, all these things. We cannot take away all of them and look piecemeal. You know me, I give lengthy answers, but I'm sorry. But unless I provide a context, I'll be giving you a single line answers. It will create controversy. So I had to provide that context. Sorry. Thank you.
Yes, doctor.
Good. Thank you, sir.
So, doctor, maybe, as said by Dr. Suresh, and the holistic practice which I do, as I said, the skin represents the individuality. Probably you can just, have another discussion with the mother and check with the emotional thought process which is going with her, and maybe could be a helpful factor. Maybe
looking at the problem in a different way.
In a different way, because this case is something different.
Totally different.
And so maybe when other things are not working, maybe we can have the holistic perspective can give a ray of hope to this mother and the child.
Yeah, actually it enhances their confidence when we talk to them, and they'll be open for experimenting and doing things.
Yes.
So that might.
By the way, you all know how Mamata actually healed her polymyositis, right?
Yes, I know.
Polymyositis is an extreme form of rheumatoid arthritis. So it is specialized, and we send her samples to Mumbai. And I spoke to all the rheumatologists in Hyderabad, and we went there. And the only thing they said is, if you use this medication for 2 years, then we decide it is going to regress or not.
Not.
Okay, but we know the cause of, polymyositis, or for that matter, rheumatoid arthritis, any kind of, all her tests are positive, anti-nuclear antibodies, ANEs, and everything. So everything is right. And all the rheumatologists, my best friends are some of the best rheumatologists are my classmates. They are from UK. I showed to them, and they all said the same thing. But you know the story. Mamta healed it in 48 hours. Right, there was never a problem. She was bedridden, took to the hospital in the stretcher, but that is possible. Okay, and
So
we
it
need
is
to
possible.
explore it further. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Suresh.
What are the preventive measures, Janaki?
Prevention of blisters we can do, ma'am. Like the problem is existing, so the prevention of blisters is like not to.
How to prevent, apart from this genetic.
I don't know if there are any genetic tests existing for that, because since
Doctor, can you suggest, Dr. Suresh?
Yeah, ma'am. I don't think there is no way that we can prevent it. As Dr. Brunda said earlier, that like one of the reasons could be like marrying in the same small communities is one of the reasons, especially in villages and all. Right? They keep marrying. I mean, even if you look at the marriage, we all have 3 types of relationship with each and every person in the village. Right? From father side, mother side. I call him Baba, I call him Maya. And so there are like different kinds of, so it's a closed community. And the genetic pool, if it comes to that kind of, and if there is no variety of this crossing and all, so it could lead to one of the it could be one of the reasons. But since the condition is rare, there is no way that either we can predict it or take measures to prevent it. I mean, that's what I understand from this.
Okay, thank you.
So that was really good discussion.
Great discussion.
Yeah.
Learning discussion.
Yeah, true. Probably we have to present Mamata's case also here for our record.
Dr. Suresh, hope you are listening. Yeah, even I know this case.
If she comes to know about it, she'll kill me. Yeah, sure.
It will help many people, right?
No. We can present one holistic case, ma'am. How did we go through and how it actually helped? I mean, compared to the conventional. Say, for example, I helped reverse so many hypothyroid cases, which are like Hashimoto's positive. I mean, there are antibodies positive, and so they were destined to take the medication for the rest of their lives. So we helped those things, even rheumatoid arthritis, or for that matter, simple degenerative osteoarthritis, early osteoarthritis. The client, I mean, she's my friend, she was denied climbing steps. And she works in a government office where her floor, she works in 12th floor, right, income tax. So, and she's only 38 when she approached me. And she said, like, I went to this top doctor in ortho in the city, and this is what he scared me of. I don't want to make it sit cross-legged because she does meditation and all this practice. Am I not allowed to do? All the thing is like, just she's 8 or 10 kgs overweight because of her desk job and all. But we are able to, I mean, she has got so many insecurities, which is responsible for, I mean, though she is not a binge eater or unhealthy eater, she is very well-educated and a civil servant. So that from that, she is able to reverse that completely. Now she climbs 12 floors. I mean, without using the lift. I mean, she takes the steps to go to her office every day.
Great.
Within four months of following. I mean, there are cases. I mean, we can have a case discussion on holistic.
We'll book you for one of the
detox. As announced to be, we have announced, actually, we are looking for the interesting case discussions, Dr. Suresh. So yeah, we can take one of the case for the discussion.
Sure. Definitely, ma'am. I'll be happy to. Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
So finally, we are coming to closing time.
Yes.
I think it's around 5, nearing 5 o'clock.
3 minutes to 5.
3 minutes to 5. That's a very, very good discussion. And thank you, Dr. Brunda. Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Suresh Kumar Garu and ma'am.
Uma Maheshwari ma'am.
Maheshwari ma'am, thank you so much for coming and participating in this. And finally, it is like, of course, easily digestible, as Dr. Brunda said, protein in the peptide form and carbs in pre-digested form. So is the best nutrition that we can advise to EB cases. And of course, EB cases, simplex and then junctional and then dystrophy. The severity depends, but based on severity, action has to be taken. But this is the basic advice that we can suggest right now.
Okay.
Yes, Brenda?
Yeah, yeah.
And one advice from my end is like the holistic approach, which is a ray of hope. So probably if you can have a discussion with the mother and look into the holistic perspective, maybe we can see some changes.
That's one thing we have to look into, as Dr. Suresh Kumar has said. We have to look into the holistic perspective of a mother and child, their relationship and her thought process. Yeah. Somebody said my voice is very low. I'll repeat this again as a closure for this today's discussion. The nutrition for EB cases, whether it's simplex or junctional or dystrophic, we have to give protein in peptide form and carbs in pre-digested form, as Dr. Brunda suggested. We all agree by that and go by that, as we always keep saying that give easily digestible food. That is regarding nutrition. And the holistic approach, as Dr. Suresh Kumar said and Mayuri said, that we have to talk with the mother and child and instill more confidence into them and see their thought process and see if we can bring about any changes, because this kind of condition is going to stay for quite long. So I think that kind of talk treatment, yeah, that I would say, so that is needed. I hope I'm clear.